Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
Oh, I love Star Wars. I'm just thinking about where I want to start with this, guys. Welcome to my Ahsoka Episode 5 reaction / initial thoughts video here. I just finished watching the episode. Let me put this into perspective for you, okay? The Earth is billions and billions years old, and we somehow managed to exist during the same time as not just Star Wars, but the Ahsoka show. Absolutely amazing. That's my non-spoiler reaction or initial thoughts to this episode. But going forward and discussing some spoilers with this episode, oh my goodness, they gave us everything that we could have ever wanted, hoped for, or have asked for with this single episode of Ahsoka being easily one of the best episodes of Star Wars television to date, hands down. This show is something incredible, and not just based on, like, episode 5 works on its own. Like, that's how incredible this episode was. It's just something that was like, you could just jump right on into it. Maybe you grew up with the original trilogy or prequel trilogy, not really knowing all that much more else, and absolutely incredibly blown away with this episode. I'm gonna go ahead and say it like right now. My only complaint about this episode is the fact of that, like, Sabine and Shinhati and Baylan didn't show up anywhere in this episode. We're bound to see them in next week's episode, episode 6, of course. That is my only complaint about this episode, but even then, I don't think that there was time to really fit them into this episode because there's just so much going on with this episode. That's not a bad thing. Well, let's start with the Clone Wars flashbacks. Like, holy crap, we just got Clone Wars flashbacks in live action. The de-aging used for Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen, oh my goodness, it looks insanely good. If you had any doubt about it, I personally, I'll be completely transparent and honest, had a little bit of a doubt in the previous episode of where we saw Anakin revealed in the World Between Worlds, and like I was a little off about it. I was a little iffy with it. I felt maybe like this isn't it completely, but this episode 110% proved me wrong with that. The de-aging and special effects, if they even used any or all that much for this episode, for Hayden Christensen especially, in those Clone Wars flashbacks from the TV show and the animated movie, they absolutely scored on with that. And I'm not sure on, like, I didn't get through the credits on who the young actress was for a young Ahsoka in those Clone Wars flashbacks. If you know by chance, please let me know in the comments down below. I'll be completely honestly transparent with you guys as well on this. I felt like it was a bit iffy at first, but like, whoever the actress is, hire that kid for some more because she was incredible for a young Ahsoka. I absolutely loved just everything about this episode, the way that Anakin was giving Ahsoka one final lesson from, like, her master. He was saying it was pretty much like, fight me to the death, pretty much, and then like gave us Clone Wars flashbacks and took it all the way back to the beginning of when these two characters first met in the Clone Wars animated movie, and then moved us up through like the years a little bit and brought us up to the stage of Mandalore, of where Ahsoka was in season 7 during the events of the Clone Wars, and like how that Clone Wars is overlapping with Revenge of the Sith. I love how they even mentioned that, like, Anakin was like, I don't remember this war, and Ahsoka was like, this is when we already like left each other, and this was like set during the events of Revenge of the Sith. Anakin was off busy falling to the dark side while Ahsoka was busy capturing Maul on Mandalore. And I have to say, I second that. My only other complaint, aside from not seeing like Shinhati or Sabine or Baylan in this episode, was for the fact of that they like totally blue-balled us with Captain Rex just chilling in the background. Not just phase 1 but phase 2 variations of Captain Rex in those Clone Wars flashbacks. Like, oh my goodness, like, he's just over there chilling. I also really love that Tamora Morrison is back from more Star Wars, reprising that role once again. I want to see him come back as Boba Fett. I mean, say what you will. But anyway, this video is about the Ahsoka show and episode 5. The Clone Wars flashbacks were impeccably amazing. I can't wait to talk about more about those in our breakdown video. I'll have that also here on the channel a little bit later, so stay tuned for that by grabbing that subscribe button. Not just with these Clone Wars flashbacks, but more of when they actually come out of those flashback sequences. We get more Anakin and Vader and like against Ahsoka. I loved how they were like transitioning Anakin back and forth between Vader, because that's not an easy thing to do, and Filoni, oh my gosh, he pulled it off again. incredible. I absolutely loved the way of that we saw a dark Anakin Skywalker essentially like embodying Darth Vader. Was absolutely insane with that. Very reminiscent of the way that we saw him at the end of Revenge of the Sith, like right before he fought Obi-Wan Kenobi and was like hanging around on Mustafar, killing like all these other separatist commanders. And aside from that, and like that whole sequence with the World Between Worlds was absolutely pulled off amazingly. I would say like the only critique I would have done with that is like explaining exactly where they might have been, but I could have missed that. Maybe they did do that. Let me know in the comments down below. But it's just amazing. Like, I'm speechless. I think I'll be honest, guys, I bawled my eyes out. I'm sitting here watching Clone Wars flashbacks, and it's just like, that's my childhood. And I'm looking at Hayden Christensen in the role of live action Clone Wars flashbacks, and I'm like, that's my childhood. That was amazing. I absolutely loved everything that they did with those Clone Wars flashbacks and the World Between Worlds, Anakin / Vader versus Ahsoka. Let's switch gears here and talk a little bit about with what they did with that whole like other subplot with Hera and Jacen Syndulla and the rest of those X-Wing squadrons looking around, hanging around on Seotis. It was a little bit slow at first, but like, I'm trying to process Clone Wars flashbacks over here. You have to slow it down a little bit somewhere, but it eventually picked up, and I loved how it just came together after Ahsoka left the World Between Worlds with Anakin. It made that whole other like subplot a part of the episode with Hera, Jacen, and those X-Wing pilots feel a lot more important. Like, it really shows that overall inclusiveness and the bigger story, the bigger picture of what everything exactly is, explaining everything that went on with the Purgles and exactly how they plan on getting to the other galaxy. I also absolutely love how that's like a callback to Star Wars Rebels to begin with, of how Thrawn and Ezra even got away into this other galaxy. I think that they explained it enough to a point of how that makes sense, especially even for viewers that aren't necessarily like crazy over the animated shows, or maybe haven't even seen Rebels or Clone Wars. And I also say that for the Clone Wars flashbacks, when we're seeing those, maybe if you aren't a fan of the Clone Wars or Rebels and don't necessarily understand what's going on even with those, you can still understand because they explain it a little bit more. I love how they expand more on with that relationship between a young Ahsoka Tano and a younger Anakin Skywalker at that throughout those Clone Wars flashbacks. It definitely adds on to more of those reasons as for why Ahsoka left the Jedi Order and everything that went on with that, why she left Anakin also. I digress though. I also believe, as I had mentioned, that explaining like the way that they plan on getting to this other galaxy makes semi-sense, but I think that something might go wrong in the next couple of episodes. Anyway, just wow, I'm like speechless. I'm trying to think of like words to say, and I'm just like, there's no words to say. They took the words right out of my mouth. It was amazing. What else can I say? Guys, of course, I'll have a breakdown video here on the channel a little bit later into the regards of Ahsoka Easter eggs, references, and things that you might have missed throughout this episode here on the channel. So all the more reason to grab that subscribe button if you haven't already. Guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. It means the absolute world to me. I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions, your initial reaction and thoughts and theories in the comment section down below, guys. Thanks so much for watching today's video. Of course, this has been Unofficial Star Wars. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great one. May the Force be with you as always. Peace out.